Springs with my husband and kids, and I am an immigration attorney. I went to law school here and moved away and have recently come back, so that's kind of a little bit about me. Normally on Tuesday nights about now I'd be over at Jack Wynn's, but I figured it was worth it to miss that to come here because I like talking about immigration. You know, I was thinking really hard about something that I could say about immigration policy that would be meaningful or interesting. And the truth is that the more I work with clients and the more I hear about their stories, I have just become almost unable to be objective about immigration policy. And I keep thinking, you know, okay, here's my line. These people can stay, but everybody else should go. And then, you know, a few weeks later, the line kind of moves over, and I think, oh, you know, these people should stay, and maybe these people should go. And I just, my experience with the people that I work with has, I would say, consistently and continuously pushed me further and further to, I don't know if it's the left, but to the point where I have a hard time at this point saying that we have much of a moral authority to tell people who should go and who should stay. And I thought I would try to tell you guys just a little bit about what brought me to this position. And it probably all starts about in 2002 when I was living in Brazil with my husband, and I had a chance to work for the U.S. State Department, and I was the person sitting in the window issuing visas. So if you wanted to come and go to Disney World, or if you wanted to come be a professional worker here, you had to come talk to me. And it was a good job, but it was very depressing because, you know, I had to talk to 100 people a day, and so that meant they got about 60 seconds to convince me, you know, white girl from Minnesota, that they were sufficiently tied to their country to come here. And a few weeks into my job, I needed to open a bank account, and we had a special bank in the consulate just for American employees. And everybody there spoke English. I didn't speak Portuguese fluently yet. And so I went up and I told the woman what I wanted. I wanted to open an account. I wanted to get a checkbook. And she got everything taken care of. And she said, okay, now you have to write me a check for the deposit. It's like $267. Now, I was a college graduate. I had a master's degree. I hadn't been to law school yet. And I was like, I can't fill out this check because I don't know how to spell 267 in Portuguese. And it was as if the world spun in front of me because I think, you know, I thought, hey, I'm an educated person. Like, I'm a professional, and here I am holding a checkbook, unable to write the check because I don't know how to spell 267 in Portuguese. And it was a huge eye-opener for me because every time I talked to somebody in the window who would say to me, well, my husband's living in the United States and I want to go visit him. And I would say, well, this baby that you have here was born in the United States. Well, yeah. Well, it kind of looks to me like you're going to move there, so I can't approve your visa, I'm sorry. You know, it's kind of a messed up system because regardless of where her baby was born or what she wanted to do here, I would like to live in a country where a husband and a wife can raise their child together. Somebody told me once, and I have no idea if this is true, but it seems true to me, that the only U.S. law more complicated than immigration law is tax law. And I actually went looking for this board game, but I couldn't find it in time. But do you guys know the game Chutes and Ladders, where you have kind of like the path, and you spin the spinner, and you know, maybe you end up on a ladder, maybe you end up in a chute. Well, that is exactly the way our immigration law works. You know, maybe you were lucky enough to get beat up by your American citizen husband. Well, great. In our system, that's a ladder. You can go right to the top. Okay? Maybe the guy that beat you up was not an American citizen. Well, maybe we can do something for you, but your ladder's probably not quite as high. Maybe, I mean, there's just a million arbitrary things in our immigration law that function essentially like this game of chutes and ladders. And one sibling might land on a chute and go all the way down to the bottom, and the other sibling might have something happen to them that's a ladder, or they keep going. I think that's a function of where our immigration law came from. There has always been, I mean, the Bracero program was not something that I would speak fondly about, but I think even our first laws, our first immigration laws, were essentially to keep the Chinese out of the West Coast, and our laws have kind of functioned like that since then. The human side of the chutes and ladders game of our immigration law is sort of personified for me in the sister of one of my clients, who, this particular client is in a bad situation. His sister is slightly better off in that she was one of the ones who was lucky enough to get to be a domestic violence victim, and her victimizer was a U.S. citizen, and so in theory she should have a relief. She should be able to stay here. And I didn't handle her case, but she was telling me about, you know, some of the different things that went wrong and how it's been denied now, and how she and her lawyer are trying to work through it. And it sounds like it should work, but she was telling me, she said, you know, Stephanie, if this doesn't work, I'm just giving up. And I said, you can't give up. Like, you and your husband have a business here, your kids live here, you've lived here for 25 years. I said, you can't give up. You know, we'll find something else. And she said, but you have no idea how awful it feels to have your entire life on hold, waiting for something, and then you get this letter in the mail, and it says, denied. And she said, you know, I've lived here my whole life, I feel like I'm an American, I know I'm Mexican, but I feel like this is where I belong. And she said, I just can't live with that hope anymore, just to have it dashed. And she said, you know, I've spent thousands of dollars trying to work this out, and so far it hasn't worked. And, you know, I told her, okay, look, if it gets denied, you come to me, I will help you, I will do something, you know, I will do whatever I can to help you, but, you know, there may not be anything that I can do for her. And that is the kind of thing that I wake up thinking about at 3:30 in the morning, like, okay, what did I miss in her case? What can I go back, and how can we find a way to do this? And it seems silly to me because her sister was born here. Her sister has no immigration problems. I mean, it's the same family. You know, her brother's in the detention center, days from being deported. She's trying to work this out through her domestic violence case, and her sister's fine. And there's nothing that her sister can do to help her or her brother, or at least not in any reasonable amount of time. And so, as much as I would love to be able to talk about policy and, you know, how many thousands of petitions we should approve, and, you know, what sort of alternatives are, at the end of the day, I feel like I just run into too many people who are, I don't want to say, their entire lives are defined by where they were born. And they don't seem any different from me, except that they were born somewhere else and they don't have an easy way to fix their problem. So that's kind of what I think about when I think about immigration. I don't know if I was 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever.
You were fine, great.
But